Hey, so can autistic people have sex? Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Aspie World. My name is Dan, right, and I have autism. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more, remember to hit the subscribe button. But let's go. Let's get into it. So I have a book out called Autism for Adults, and one of the things that I wrote in there, one of the chapters, is all about intimacy, autism, sex, right? Because there's a bunch of people ignorant to the extreme who kind of don't understand that autistic people can have relationships, right? For a start, we have multiple autism dating websites, right? And yes, not everybody who dates will want to have, intercourse or intimacy, but majority of them will, because that's human nature, right? That's what we do as humans. We're primates that want to produce offspring so we can better the society of our group, our people, the survival of life itself. And we only do that through coitus or intercourse, right? So where does that leave us? Well, autistic individuals have very specific needs. They could be profound needs. They could have higher support needs where they may have physical disabilities also along with autism. They could have intellectual disability along with autism. So some of those ins and outs, pardon the pun, could be difficult. But on the whole, you have programs like Love on the Spectrum that show how blossoming relationships on the autism spectrum can work. And I know so many relationships where there's an autistic person and a non-autistic person or allistic person in a relationship together, and they have children, right? So of course they're having sex. So it's not that autistic people can't have sex. It's more to do with how are the boundaries, or how are the protocols for autism and intimacy created. So as you guys know, I've got a book called Autism for Adults that's out right now on Amazon and all the major retail outlets. But if you're interested in learning more and deep diving into life as an autistic adult and really 10xing that potential, you can check out my course, which is Autism for Adults. The link will be in the description of this video, or you can go to www.autismforadults.com right now and get access to the course. And there are a few things to this. So in my book, I talk about how physical touch is something of a difficulty for me, right? So if I'm driving and my partner puts her hand on my leg, I kind of jump because it's like a light, soft touch, right? I need kind of really hard physical touch to activate this deep level of proprioception, like a muscle kind of activation, right? To realize that it's not a scary thing, it's not a threatening thing, because autistic people take things literally at face value. As soon as it happens, it is what it is. Like if she said to an autistic person, I don't know, it's raining cats and dogs. They may think that it's raining cats and dogs outside, right? So when you're talking about intimacy, you need to be really kind of like specific of understanding that person's needs. And I say this in my book, there could be, and I want to talk a little bit more about autism and sexual behavior in that respect. And this video isn't kind of like a naughty censored video. It's just a normal, healthy conversation that we need to have, right? And so autistic people may have needs like sensory needs. Certain textures and smells may kind of really impact the person on the spectrum to a point where they're, no longer wanting to, have intercourse in a certain room, or they can't have intercourse a certain time of day or something. There could be a whole bunch of different reasons, and those things need to be accounted for. Maybe an autistic person doesn't like to be touched on the neck, right? Or maybe they don't want to be kissed lightly. Maybe it has to be kind of like quite, a firm physical touch. And all those things I can understand because I have specific needs, and so do a bunch of other autistic individuals. Now, that's not saying that sex with autistic individuals is going to be complex or complicated. Quite on the contrary, I think it can be very enjoyable, and I think it can be very specific to the needs of the person. And that needs to be spoken about. And I think understanding, if you're an autistic person and you are wanting to engage in a sexual relationship with somebody, then allow yourself to be open and honest with them about your needs, wants, and how you would like it to go, and they will tell you the same about them. And that way you can come to some kind of compromise, which is consensual, and there you go. Now, it's funny because many autistic people, men and women, and non-binary folk, who I know personally, are actually so into sex that they are OnlyFans creators, right? They create videos for OnlyFans, they create content for OnlyFans, they love kind of glamorizing kind of sex and their bodies and enjoying it. And the thing is, I did a scholarship course with MIT in 2019 called with the Sloan School of Management, and it was about disability advocacy in the digital age of digital social media. And one of the guys, Danny, this guy, he was awesome. He's a wheelchair user, an Israeli guy, a really nice bloke. He did a campaign called "Dis is Sexy," right? Like disabilities can be sexy. Dis is sexy, and it was huge. And we all like, wow, it was really cool because he opened up the door. Like he did I think he did like a raunchy photo, right? He was like in his chair, like naked, but he kind of covered himself in a suggestive way. It was really cool, and it just opened up that thing saying that, like, just because you have a disability, just because you have something that's maybe different from the average typical person, it doesn't mean that your actions, thoughts, and intentions are going to be any different from anybody else's, right? And it really kind of hit home when I see like autistic individuals who love to express it. And why do autistic people find sex so interesting, right? This is really interesting. This is the good, juicy part. Sex is extremely sensory stimulating, right? There is something quite, it's personal, it's spiritual, it's everything and more, right? Because that's what it is. It's the closest you can be to a human being. And it's exchanging something so personal with somebody, right? And that is, it's only something you can experience and understand for yourself. And by thinking about those definitions, it's so sensory uplifting and sensory seeking that autistic people can become quite, obsessed with that kind of process. And also, not only is it sensory seeking, because pleasing for sensory seekers, it's also dopamine rich, which means dopamine gets released into your brain all the time. And why is this important for autism? Because autistic individuals also typically will have ADHD. And I have my own theory on this, and I'm going to do a video about it. It's coming up, don't worry. And ADHD is kind of like a dopamine deficiency, right? You're just chasing dopamine all the time. That's not all it is, but it's some of what it is. And by having this dopamine deficiency, if you find something that is not only sensory awesome, it's intimate to a way that you can communicate with somebody without actually speaking, right? And it gives you a hit of dopamine, there's a winning circle there. Like, that's a winning cycle of action. So you can see how autistic individuals will become really interested and not obsessed, but like really fascinated and enjoy sex in a way where it's kind of like it's ticking many boxes. Now, this is a highly taboo subject. I get it, but it's never spoken about that often. I wrote my book, Autism for Adults. I talk about it in the book because people think that autistic people can't have sex, right? Which is really annoying. And sometimes they don't even know that autistic people enjoy sex. They'll be like, well, how can you enjoy sex if you're thinking about kind of like, if your mind's going 1,000 miles an hour? And this is another part. When you have such a rush of endorphin and dopamine going into your brain of flooding your brain, like when you're having intimacy with somebody, then all of the kind of worries and overstimulations of everything else kind of just get numbed for a short period of time. So you can see how an autistic person can just feel complete bliss in that moment, right? Because for once, their mind isn't chasing thoughts for like 1,000 miles an hour and just going kind of hell for leather. It's actually taking that one moment to really simply relax. And I think that's really interesting because it gives you another insight into possibly autistic individuals enjoy sex more than the average person, which is really cool because it's on the contrary to why this video was made, because people think that people on the autism spectrum don't like sex or don't want sex. But look, let's talk about the other part. Some autistic individuals may not enjoy sex, and that's fine because we all have different needs. Some neurotypical people don't like sex, and that's okay too, right? We don't all have to like the same thing, and there's no one way about it. You don't say like, oh, you're weird if you don't like sex, or you're weird if you like too much sex. Like, okay, there could be an addiction, possibility of an addiction, but like anything else, it's addiction. You kind of treat it as an addiction. But in terms of some autistic people just don't find it necessary, and they may become like asexual, and that means that they are neither into any gender or sex, and that's fine because it takes all types to make the world go round, right? And that's what we learn from this whole idea of diversity and diversifying our pools, because we need that to survive as the group. So this is the interesting part. I want to know, if you want to share, what are your thoughts on sex? Put it in the comments down below. If you're autistic and you want to talk about sex, drop it in the comment down below. Very taboo subject, but hey, whatever. All right, guys, peace out. See you in the next video.